Last fall, I pulled 4.5 pounds of fresh ginger out of a single 15-gallon pot sitting on my back porch in Lancaster County. 4.5 pounds from one container. Most American gardeners I talk to assume ginger only grows in Hawaii or Florida. Found that it's too tropical, too fussy, too slow for a Pennsylvania backyard. I believed that myself for years. Then my Amish neighbor Daniel showed me how his wife Ruth has been growing ginger in old galvanized tubs in their summer kitchen for decades. There's a rule he taught me about how you treat the rhizome before it ever touches soil, and most folks skip it entirely. Stick with me to the end, and I'll share the one thing I add to the water during that step that doubled my harvest the year I started doing it. Let me confirm that number before we go further. 4.5 pounds harvested in late October 2024 from one 15-gallon fabric pot sitting on my back porch in Lancaster County, Zone 6B, the same climate most of you are probably working in. Most American gardeners I talk to fail at ginger for one reason. They grab a knobby piece from the grocery store, push it into a pot of regular potting mix, and wait for something to happen. Nothing does. Ruth, Daniel's wife, has been growing ginger in old galvanized wash tubs in her summer kitchen since 1968. Her grandmother brought a piece home from a market in Lancaster City that year, and she's kept the same line going by saving rhizomes every fall. I'm going to walk you through this in 5 steps, and at the end I'll share the one thing I add to the soak water that doubled my harvest the year I started doing it. Step 1, source the right rhizome. This is where most folks go wrong before they ever touch a pot. You cannot grow ginger from a grocery store piece. I want to be straight with you. I tried it in 2019, my first attempt, dropped a knobby chunk from the produce aisle into a 5-gallon bucket, watered it for 6 weeks, and not a single shoot came up. I didn't know at the time that almost all conventional grocery store ginger is sprayed with a sprout inhibitor to keep it from waking up on the shelf. That spray does its job. The rhizome sits there in your soil and rots quietly. What you want is certified organic seed rhizome. You can get it from a food co-op that sells organic produce or from any of the reputable organic seed companies that ship in February and March. Look for plump pieces, firm to the touch, with at least 2 visible eyes. Those little knobs that look like the eyes on a seed potato. If the piece is shriveled or soft, walk away. Good seed rhizome runs about $10 or $15 a pound, and 1 pound will plant 2 15-gallon pots. Get that part right, and you've cleared the first hurdle. Step 2, this is Daniel's rule, and it's the part most folks skip entirely. Never plant a rhizome dry. Take your seed rhizome and break it into pieces, not cut, broken, along the natural ridges if you can. Each piece should be roughly 1.5 inches to 2 inches long with at least 2 eyes. Set the broken pieces on a paper towel on your kitchen counter and let the cut faces callus over for 24 hours. That callus prevents rot once the piece goes into the soil. Now here's where the rule lives. After the callus, you soak every piece in warm water, 85 to 95 degrees, no hotter, for a full 24 hours in a glass jar. Daniel told me once plainly, a dry rhizome is a sleeping rhizome, and you wake it up in water before it ever sees soil. 2 things happen in that jar. First, the dormant rhizome rehydrates and the eyes begin to swell. Second, and this is the part most home gardeners have no idea about, even some organic rhizomes carry a light coating of natural growth inhibitor on the skin, and the warm soak washes most of it off. I'd been failing at ginger for years and never knew that step existed. Once I started soaking, my germination rate went from maybe 1 piece in 3 to nearly every piece coming up. That's the rule. Don't skip it. Step 3, container and soil mix. Ginger is a shallow rooter. It spreads sideways across the top 6 inches of soil, so wide beats deep. Every time I use a 15-gallon fabric pot for one good clump. Ruth's old galvanized tubs are roughly 18 inches deep and 24 inches wide, drilled along the bottom for drainage, and they sit lined up on the south-facing concrete pad outside her summer kitchen. Either shape works as long as you got width. The soil mix matters more than the container. I run 50% finished compost, 30% coconut coir. Peat works fine if that's what you have on hand, and 20% perlite for drainage. That's it. No bagged potting mix. The compost feeds the rhizome and carries the soil biology that does the real work. Store-bought potting mix is sterile by design, and ginger grown in sterile mix produces small, weak rhizomes. I learned that the hard way my second season. Mix it dry in a wheelbarrow, fill your container to within 4 inches of the rim, water it in once until it's evenly damp, and let it sit overnight before planting. Now, before we get to the rest of the steps, I want to pause here for a minute. Container ginger lives or dies on soil biology. That compost-heavy mix in step 3 isn't a recipe. Simply, it's a living system. The deeper dive into why a living soil produces plants that resist disease and pests without a single chemical is in my book, The 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. Building pest-proof soil walks you through the biological mechanism step by step. It's the same principle that runs Ruth's tubs and my back porch pots. If you're tired of the chemical treadmill and you want a complete system, not another tip, the book is $17 at backyardbuildbooks.com. If you're watching on your TV, grab your phone and scan the QR code on screen. Take your time pulling that out and I'll wait right here. If you're on a phone or laptop, the link is in the description below. All right, let's keep going. Step 4, planting and the indoor head start. This is where the calendar matters in our climate. Ginger needs 8 to 10 months from planting to harvest, and Zone 6B only gives us about 5 frost-free months. The math doesn't add up unless you start indoors. I plant on March 1st every year, eyes pointing up, pieces spaced about 6 inches apart, in a 15-gallon pot, 3 or 4 pieces per pot, and buried only 2 inches deep. That last part trips people up. Cover lightly with your mix water until the top is damp and put the pot somewhere warm. Soil temperature has to hit 70 degrees minimum for the rhizome to break dormancy. On top of the refrigerator works. A seedling heat mat under the pot works better. The first green shoot will push up somewhere between 3 and 6 weeks after planting. Daniel walks past my back porch most spring mornings when he's bringing eggs over, and he can tell you within a day or two when the ginger's going to come up just by looking at the soil surface. I move my pots out to the back porch around May 1st, 2 weeks after last frost, once the outdoor soil temperature is steady at 70. Step 5, growing season care and the harvest. Once your ginger is up and growing, the routine is simple but specific. Water deeply, then let the top inch of soil dry between waterings. Ginger hates sitting wet. Stick your finger into check before you water. If the top inch is damp, walk away and come back tomorrow. Every 4 to 6 weeks through the summer, hill fresh compost on top of the pot, an inch or two right over the surface. New rhizomes form near the surface as the plant matures, and that surface compost feeds them directly. I picked that up from watching Daniel during his morning observation walks. He noticed years ago that Ruth's heaviest ginger always came from the tubs where she top dressed most aggressively. The rhizomes were practically pushing up out of the soil. Every 3 weeks, feed with a diluted fish emulsion or a good compost tea. Half strength is plenty. Ginger is a steady, slow feeder, not a heavy one. Then you wait. 8 to 10 months after planting, the leaves will start to yellow and die back somewhere in mid to late October. That dieback is the plant telling you the rhizomes are mature. Tip the pot out onto a tarp, brush the soil off by hand, and there's your harvest. My 15-gallon pot last fall gave me 4.5 pounds. 3 mistakes I see over and over. First, and I just covered this, but it bears repeating, planting grocery store ginger. It's almost always sprayed with a sprout inhibitor. The piece sits in your soil for 2 months and rots. Buy certified organic seed rhizome only. That single change will save you a whole season. Second, burying the rhizome too deep. Folks default to 4 or 6 inches, the way they plant a seed potato. Ginger isn't a potato. It's a shallow surface rooter, and a piece buried 4 inches down will rot before it sprouts. 2 inches maximum. Hill fresh compost from the top as the plant grows. Third, moving the pot outside too early on the calendar. May 1st sounds reasonable, but if your soil temperature isn't holding steady at 70 degrees, your ginger stalls or dies back. Buy a $6 probe thermometer at the hardware store. Push it in. Read the number. Don't trust the calendar. All right. At the start of this video, I told you I'd share the one thing I add to the soak water that doubled my harvest. Here it is. 1 tablespoon of unsulfured blackstrap molasses per gallon of warm soak water. Dissolve it while the water is still warm so it goes fully into solution. Then drop your rhizome pieces in for the 24-hour soak. Here's why it works. Every rhizome carries beneficial microbes on its skin. That's just biology. Molasses is a simple sugar source, and those microbes feed on it overnight. By the time the piece hits the soil, it's carrying a colonized active microbial population that drives early root development before the plant has to do it from scratch. I'll be honest about where this came from. Daniel doesn't use molasses. Ruth uses well water with a splash of finished compost tea. I borrowed the principle and used what I had in the pantry. The first season I tried it, I went from 2.1 pounds per pot to 4.3 pounds per pot. Almost exactly doubled. That's the math. Before I let you go, I want to come back to one thing. 4.5 pounds of fresh ginger is a lot of ginger, and the next problem is what to do with it. Ruth has been storing rhizome and saving seed pieces for next season for 56 years now in the same root cellar her family has used for generations. Chapter 10 of the book book, Ruth's Root Cellar and Pudding Buy, walks through her exact storage method, including the sand storage trick that adapts directly to fresh ginger. It's the grow it, protect it, store it loop the Amish have been running for 200 years. Same place, backyardbuildbooks.com, QR code on the screen, or the link in the description if you're on your phone. Go ahead and pull that up when you've got a second. Take your time. I'll be right here. So that's how I get 4.5 pounds of fresh ginger from a single 15-gallon pot on a Pennsylvania back porch. Daniel and Ruth are still doing the same thing this summer in those galvanized tubs out behind the summer kitchen. Next video, I'll walk you through Ruth's root cellar method for storing the harvest through the winter. I'll see you in the next one.